Hello and welcome to Loud and Proud Mamas. I'm your host, Justine.
And I'm your host, Laura.
And we are here to talk to you about a great episode. We got a bunch of things lined up today. First things to kick things off, Laura, we are officially live on this podcast.
We are official. So exciting. It was so weird to see see my name pop up on Spotify, but super fun.
Yeah, and we have a beautiful Instagram now.
Thank you. Yes, please go check that out. If you do look for us on Instagram, we're under Loud Proud Mamas. So no and for the Instagram, just Loud Proud Mamas.
Perfect. Keeping it nice and easy. Wherever you're listening to us, Spotify, Antenna, Pocket Cast, please leave a beautiful rating and review. Although if you do have a 1-star for us, you can keep that to yourself. We don't need that kind of energy in our life.
Yeah, pass on that, please.
No problem. All right. So for the first topic, I thought we would talk about one of the periods I'm most nostalgic for the baby period, and that is the period of cloth diapers. I'm going to give you a little rundown on the cloth diapers for the listeners who are not aware. So you have two basic options for diapers. You can use the usual plastic diapers, Huggies, Pampers, stuff like that. And those are pretty good. They can be a little bit expensive, but, they're very familiar. And I think, when you're dealing with a new baby, it's nice to be familiar. However, if you want to save money, and if you are not afraid of handling a little bit more laundry in those first early months, I cannot recommend cloth diapers enough. We got a whole bunch on Facebook Marketplace for very cheap. And those beautiful first 6 months when your baby is pure breast milk fed, you can throw that whole poopy diaper in your laundry. It's going to come out sparkling clean because it's not real poop. It's just breast milk. What do you have to say about cloth diapers, Laura?
So I am also on team cloth diapers, but our experience with it is a little different. So we were given a whole stock for free when our daughter was 6 months old. So we didn't have them for the early days. So I actually missed that pure breast milk poop. We started when she started solids. But it's been great for us since. We've saved so much money. It took a little while for me to get the washing routine down pat. But now that we have it, it's pretty smooth, and our daycare even does the cloth diapering, so that's fantastic. And we've had a pretty easy go with it. Been enjoying it a lot. We do a disposable at night, just because we find that's a little bit better, and it still saves a lot of money of having only one disposable per night, rather than the 6 or 7 a day. Though I have to say, compared to some other people I've talked to who also do cloth diapering, our daughter is a little more on the lower pee poop needs side, so she doesn't often have blowouts, and we use the bamboo they're like a little sheet that goes in, so if they poop, you just pull it out and throw it away, and then throw the rest in the wash. So that goes pretty smoothly for us. But is that not the case with you and your little guy?
So for my son, we are very blessed that he's a good eater. So he's been like that ever since he was a baby. He would chug the breast milk. He would chug formula. He's not very fussy. And when we started him on solids, he started with a lot of enthusiasm. And we're very happy about that. But one side effect of what goes in must come out. And, maybe you don't have as much experience with those bamboo liners. They're very nice for the polite poopies, the little nicely shaped turds. No problem. But yeah, we've had a couple blowouts. Yeah, you have to rinse all the poop off, because once they start solids, listeners, if you're, just to explain, when they're fully on breast milk, you can throw the whole poopy diaper in the laundry and the washing machine is going to be able to handle it because it's not real poop. Once they start solids, your baby is pooping basically like we do because they're eating actual food. And so you cannot actually put that much poop in your laundry. You do actually have to have a system where you rinse it out. Or if, it's a nice polite poopy, you can just pick it up with the bamboo liner and throw it in your garbage. Yeah, we have had a couple of very intense blowouts. We gotta be careful with the berries, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yes, have you found any other little tips when it comes to cloth diapering? Like I found that adding a cup of vinegar to the load helps a lot with the it not building up any smells or keeping it like a little bit of a disinfectant rinse. I'll always wash it
Nice.
first, and then I'll do a second load that's just like a rinse with the vinegar, and I find that's been really helping, like kind of reset them.
That's a good tip. Maybe I'll have to do that. No, my strategy is I put them all in along with the diaper bag, and then I do a rinse cycle. That's usually like a 25-minute cycle. And then I do 60-minute cycle with soap. And then after
Okay.
that, in the nicer weathered months when we have summer, etc., I hang them outside to dry. And then in the
Mm-hmm.
winter, nowadays, I put them in the dryer. So that's my strategy. I haven't noticed too much of a smell or too much of a buildup, but I think I will steal your vinegar tip just to see if I can freshen them up a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard some people do it not every time, every once in a while, because I have heard some counter-indicating things where if you do it too often, it can like loosen the elastics a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Vinegar is pretty strong.
Yeah, so I do just like half a cup, and I don't do it all the time, but it has helped on those loads that I find a little bit more saturated. And yeah, so that one's good. I have also heard, I'm not sure if you do this, but I was told not to put the outer part with the water resistant in the dryer because it stops it from being waterproof. It like
Oh,
breaks down the waterproofness. So I
interesting.
always put the inserts in, but then I hang the I have one of those fold out hanging things, and I'll put the outer kind of plasticky parts on that.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe you're much better at this than me. You have a much better system,
I did a lot of research. I
apparently.
was I was lucky when I got given all of the cloth diapers. It was actually from the person who was coming to help us out from the Family Resource Center, and she did cloth diapering with all three of her kids. So she gave me a
Yeah.
lot of tips and tricks and things. So that really helps.
I think the same person who helped you out helped me out. So I was talking, I think, to the same person when I was still pregnant.
Okay.
She asked me, "What's your diaper strategy?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, Huggies, Pampers, whatever." And she told me very realistically that you're not going to save hundreds, you're going to save thousands over the course of your baby's
Yeah.
lifetime if you consider cloth diapers. And yes, you do have to handle poop a little bit more intimately than you would be handling with plastic. But are you willing to do that to save literally thousands of dollars? So for listeners,
Yeah.
Amazon will sell about a pack of 50 diapers for about 17 cents per diaper. A newborn, at least my newborn, was going through 10 diapers a day. So a pack of 50 is not going to last you a week. So, just to give listeners an idea of what the math is.
Yeah, so definitely we have friends who were also considering cloth diapers, and they did the calculation, and they basically said like either we do disposables or we have a few extra $1,000 to go on a trip. So
No,
I would much prefer to go on a trip if I had the choice.
no.
So we went this route for
And especially like if you do have a laundry line like I do, you save so much in the electricity costs.
oh yeah.
We have seen a spike with our Hydro-Quebec bills now that we're using the dryer more often. But if you're able to hang things up, oh my God, just never run your dryer in the summertime.
And listeners, I just want to say, don't worry, we're not always going to talk about poop. It does come up sometime with parenting, but don't worry if you're not a fan of the poop conversations. I know we're two out of four so far, but it won't be an every time thing.
Well, for the listeners who have perhaps considered shutting us off, why don't we switch gears here and talk about our next topic? So,
Sounds good.
Laura, I want to know, are you okay talking a little bit about your donor journey and about how your journey for conception, basically? And if you want to share that with the listeners and just talk about the whole thing, because I think for our listeners, maybe they're not really aware of, how do you get started on this journey? What's step one?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife and I are actually very open about this. Whenever we're talking with people and they have questions, we welcome the questions because information, knowledge is power. So like you said, there's a lot of people who don't know all the nitty-gritties of this. And I know for myself, when we were considering the conception process, I was searching for this type of information. Like, I was looking for podcasts that talked about it. I was looking for Instagram posts that covered it. And I didn't find too much exactly what I was looking for. So I'm happy to talk about it. Though not sure if we should split it up, because I know for me they're big topics. Let's start with the donor process and our decision to go that route. And then we can maybe share the actual steps to conception in a following episode, so we can keep those listeners listening.
There you go, listeners. We're giving you one crumb at a time.
There you go. But anyways, we'll see how this goes. So we started our process by meeting with a fertility specialist because according to the medical system, you are considered infertile if you have what was the term they said? Male factor infertility. So 2 women have a male factor infertility because there is no male factor. So we had to start with a clinic and we met with a specialist. It took a little bit of time because I think when we started our process, a lot of people were also starting the process. We're quite lucky where we live here to have good coverage for fertility. Our coverage, kind of for those who don't know, we get the opportunity to have an artificial insemination as your first go, and then there's 6 rounds of that is covered, and then you also have 1 round of IVF that is also covered. So our fertility doctor said, let's start with the artificial insemination, which is also known as IUI. So that's intrauterine insemination. And that is what we started with. We had to do a bunch of different tests to see, just that everything was working fine. It's all like standard protocol. And then once we got the go-ahead to do that, we started looking for a donor. So our start for choosing a donor, we had some friends who in conversations had offered to assist us, and we did consider it for a quick moment, but then decided that we would prefer not a known donor, so one that we got through a sperm bank. And we considered different sperm banks. There were a few here in Quebec, but the ones in Quebec, they don't provide a lot of information for confidentiality purposes. So it's just kind of things like the height, the eye color, the ethnicity, and you don't really get much more information than that. There's no photos, there's nothing else, or at least not the banks that we were looking at. We wanted more information than that.
I had the same experience, yeah.
Yeah. So we wanted to have a little bit more information. We wanted it to look as close or to have similar traits to my wife as possible. And those were the main criteria that we were looking at. Something else that we considered was looking for somebody that had a limited number of families that they donated to. There were some that we saw online that were what you would call career donors. So they have been active in the program for a long time. And we were trying to look for someone who had a limited number of families that they provided for. So that was something we kept in mind. And then we also had some criteria that we wanted to have a similar height to my wife, because we had discussed. So I'm quite short. I'm 5'4", probably 5'3", but I'm stretching it. And my wife is almost 6 feet. So we were worried that if we took a shorter donor and it was a boy, that maybe he wouldn't feel so great if he was shorter than his mom. We're just like, maybe that sounds trivial or silly, but it was something we thought about, or at least I thought about it. So yeah. We want, like, a search criteria was over 6'1", or over 6 feet. So that narrowed our our pool quite small. And then there were a few other things. We wanted similar eye color, some similar characteristics. And I'm not sure if this is something that you were looking at when you were looking, but we were told to select something with a CMV status. So you can have a negative CMV status or a positive CMV status. And this is it's like a common cold. It's an illness that you get, but if you get it during pregnancy, it can be very, very dangerous to the baby. It's something that they do blood tests to check for. They suggest that if your status is negative, that you pick a donor that's negative. They said that you didn't have to, but it just was better to. This is something that when you're searching online on the websites, on the donor site, you can select negative CMV status or positive. We were negative, so that also shortened our pool to a very, very tiny amount. So we didn't have a lot of people to choose from. And we just kept looking and nobody was feeling right. And we were looking for a good month, maybe 2 months of looking almost every day. And then all of a sudden, the unicorn showed up. The magical donor that fit everything so perfect. The exact height we wanted, exact hair color, exact eye color. And I tell you not, I kid you not, you hold up a picture of the donor and my wife and like it could be the male version. We just really liked the vibe of this donor. In his photos, the way he presented himself, you could just tell that, I don't know, we had a really good feeling. But there was only one vial left.
Oh my God.
Only one. And so in that moment, we're like, okay, are we doing this? Are we picking our donor? And we did. We added to cart and we just crossed our fingers and we hoped that it would work on the first shot, because if it didn't, then we would have to go back to the drawing board. And our donor was then listed as retired once the vials sold out, so he's no longer active in the program. Quick side note, it's quite funny when we tell people this, because when we say our donor is retired, everyone goes, oh my God, how old is he?
Oh my God.
That's not what we mean. We mean he's no longer active in the program. He only donated a certain amount and to a certain number of families, which is what we wanted. We put all our eggs in one basket, literally.
All your sperm in one cart?
And crossed our fingers. Yes, all our sperm in one cart. Luckily enough, we got it on the first shot, so we were really, really grateful for that. My wife likes to joke that it was from my Latina blood, but I'm just grateful to the stars that it happened the way it did and that we got our wonderful daughter from it.
Congratulations. That's really sweet.
Thank you. And one other... Thank you. One other thing that I just thought of was something else that we had to think about when picking our donor. And again, I'm not sure if you experienced the same thing, but we had to meet with a genetic counselor before we got the go-ahead to go with the fertility treatment. And the genetic counselor suggested that we pick a donor who was an open identity. So what this meant was that when our daughter turns 18, if she wants to contact the donor, then she has the choice to.
Right.
The counselor said that this allows kids to kind of have a connection if they want and have those questions answered, and that in the studies it seems that they responded better to this route than a completely anonymous route where they would never find out anything about their donor.
Nice. Yeah, my story is similar, a little bit different. I just wanted to ask, did you go through like the public system or did you go through a private clinic?
We went through the public system.
Right. I think that was a big difference. Yeah.
Yes, because even from what we've talked about in our treatments, like I had a medicated cycle and I had ultrasounds to help find the exact timing of when I ovulated, and there was a few other things involved in that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So how did you start with the fertility clinic? Like, do you ask for a referral for that from your doctor?
Yep. We just asked for a referral from our family doctor, and they referred us to the one in the closest big city to where we are. And then we got a call, but we were also told from friends who went through the same clinic that we could literally just email the clinic.
Right.
And funny enough, I did do that before we got the referral, and it took months, but 10 months later, I got a phone call when I was already pregnant with my daughter saying, "We'd like to accept you into the clinic." And I had to be like, "Thanks, I already came. I'm pregnant."
That's really funny. So I went through OVO in Montreal.
Okay.
Which is a very interesting relationship with the public system. It's a private clinic, from what I understand, but the procedures are publicly covered. So what I mean by that is when I have a doctor's appointment at OVO, I don't pay for that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But from what I understand, it is a private clinic, but I think just with the complicated way that Quebec works, it does cover certain procedures. So the way that I did it is in May, we decided that we wanted to put our names in the fertility clinic. OVO seemed to be the best one for us. So we put our names in, and then by November, they called us in. So it was very reasonable in terms of waiting. We saw a doctor who prescribed a whole bunch of tests, similar tests to you. Okay. We got the go-ahead that I was fertile. I think they said the same thing for us because my husband is transgender, as we mentioned in a previous episode. So that's why we had to go through the process, because famously, my husband has no sperm. By the time I was done all my tests, the doctor suggested that we do an unmedicated IUI. So basically, they just told me to go pick up ovulation strips from the drugstore and wished me luck. And it worked. But in terms of choosing donors, we noticed the same thing. So OVO has relationships with Quebec sperm banks, but it's basically like an Excel spreadsheet. What you get like ethnicity, you get height, you get skin color, stuff like that. But it's very bare bones. And it was explained to me that the Quebec system is so small that there's a chance that the sperm donor might be your neighbor. And that could be a little bit awkward when your kid's asking certain questions. And same thing as you, the fertility specialist suggested the open ID, just so that when my son, if he ever does have questions, if he ever does want to reach out, that is an option that he has for himself. We went through an American sperm bank, but it does have a relationship with the Quebec fertility clinic. So once all the paperwork was figured out, it was a very smooth sailing from there. Likewise, your wife made the same joke that she did with you, that I am super fertile, because literally all they did was just put sperm up there and then a baby popped out 9 months later.
Yep.
Might be the Latina genes, might be, but either way, we're very happy with that result. But yeah, for the donor process, it was the same thing. We wanted to give someone that was similar looking to my husband, a little bit of a bigger build. My husband is very broad-shouldered, very tall, more of a husky build. And so we wanted to get someone similar to that. What was different from us is that the fact that he had multiple pregnancies reported was a plus for us. We were like, this is that good sperm. This is, because that was the deciding factor in the end. We had it narrowed down to 2 choices. And one of them had no pregnancy reported, and one of them had pregnancies reported. So the deciding factor for us was the fact that he did have, that check mark next to that box. So I thought that was interesting in your story.
So just to clarify, we were hoping for someone who had pregnancies reported, but there was another element on the site we went that said limited family number. So it meant that after a certain number of families, the donor wouldn't continue donating.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that was something that we considered, just because we had recently watched some of those terrifying documentaries about the sperm donation, where there are 1,000+ children, and we got a little scared of that.
Fair enough. Yeah, so as we said, the Quebec government did fund for half of the cost of the sperm, which was very nice. And after that, we did have to travel to North Montreal. Yeah, no, I really enjoy Ovo Clinic. It's really good service. The doctors are very professional. The receptionists are very nice. The location is a nightmare. It's like in the industrial park of North Montreal. You're just driving and there's all these like factories and warehouses and you're like, Jesus Christ, really? But it's a good clinic and I recommend it. I recommend it to people and we had a good time there.
I'm glad to hear that. And also, if people are wondering, the one we went with was the MUHC Reproductive Center. And also had a good experience, but terrible time reaching them by phone. Like, don't even bother calling them. Like, they will not pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Ever.
No, okay, I'll say the same thing for Ovo. It's like, be prepared to be on hold for 40 minutes. When you reach them. Yeah, they do have like an email portal. So if you're willing to wait like 2 to 3 days to get an email back, that's a lot less annoying than being on the phone for 40 minutes. But either way, there's going to be a delay.
One little fun extra about going this route is that whenever people ask us questions like, oh my gosh, where did your daughter get that blonde hair? Or those beautiful eyes? I get to answer with, we ordered it online.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I also love when people do the honest mistake of looking at both of us and going, oh yeah, you have blue eyes and you have blue eyes. So that makes sense that your daughter has blue eyes. Or like, what color did you have? What color hair did you have as a child, Catherine? And I just love it because it kind of just removes the... Do you know what I'm trying to say? It just feels like we like it. I don't know.
We've had the same experience. We've had some of my husband's childhood friends over and hanging out with the baby. And, you know, these are childhood friends. They've known my husband pre-transition, post-transition, known the whole thing. So his childhood friend looked at my son and said, oh, I can tell he gets these features from you. Meaning my husband. And then there was a very long pause. And then my friend was like, and then the childhood friend was like, oh yeah, I forgot. It was very charming and very fun. You got anything else on conception?
I think that's good for today. If listeners, if you have any other questions, like I said, I'm very open to talking about it. I love sharing the process and so let us know. You can message us on our Instagram.
Yes. Maybe on the next episode, we'll talk about the actual procedure. I think some people might find that interesting. Maybe other people don't know what an ovulation test is. I remember when the nurse was like, okay, we're all set for you. Just start testing your ovulation and let us know when you're ready. And I was like, cool. What's an ovulation test?
Yeah. I didn't know until our previous episode when you talked about it. I had no idea what the process was and what an LH surge was.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could get ultrasounds for that. I think I would have been annoyed going to North Montreal multiple times just for ultrasounds. Did you have to travel very far for yours?
Downtown. So yes, it was a little annoying. Though it was only one. I only needed one ultrasound before the insemination. And then we did have an early viability ultrasound at 6 weeks. Those were the only two for that cycle.
Wow. We'll have to wait until next episode to hear all about how those ultrasounds went and what happened with the procedure. We'll save those stories for next episode.
Perfect.
Moving on to our other topic. Laura, I've been trying real hard to be a cultural person, to be a cultured person. I've been trying real hard to watch some cinema, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So I've been trying to watch some more cinema in my life. You know what I mean by cinema?
No. You mean movies?
Yeah, I've been trying to watch like more than like trashy TV. I've been trying to watch like big production type stuff, and so
like more than the Netflix?
Yeah, like Netflix has some like cinema stuff, but what I'm trying to say is because I'm in Quebec, I'm trying to watch more
Yeah.
Quebec directors.
I
And
see.
so one Quebec director that I absolutely love, I watched Arrivals a couple years ago before I even knew that it was Denis Villeneuve. Didn't know he was a Quebec director. Told my husband when we were dating early on that this was one of my favorite movies. And he was like, this is one of our most beloved and cherished directors. So I want to watch Dune 2. I watched Dune 1. I liked it. Very fun, very beautiful, very grand, and tried real hard to watch Dune 2. And you know how it is. You have the early mornings, you have the late nights, you have the running around all day. And I tried real hard and I managed 15 minutes into Dune 2. And then I was like, I can't. I'm sorry, Denny. I'm sorry. I will watch it. I'll make time to watch it. I think it's a beautiful movie. I've actually been enjoying Timothée Chalamet, but I cannot watch Dune 2 right now. And what I did instead is I did turn back to Netflix, and my husband and I have been working on the Trailer Park Boys, another great Canadian classic. And we were watching season 2 of the Trailer Park Boys. And guess who pops up on my screen?
Who?
A very young Elliot Page. A very, very young, like preteen, maybe even like child era Elliot Page. Had no idea. It makes sense because it's filmed in Nova Scotia, and I believe that's where Elliot Page is originally from.
So we're talking post Juno?
No, we're talking like way pre-Juno. Like we're talking like a child Elliot Page.
Oh, okay. I follow.
Yeah.
I think I meant to say pre, but I said post, but good that we... Okay, so pre-Juno.
No, we're talking like maybe like a 12-year-old.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and like really good actor, really charming, really fun, really good role. But it's very interesting because the gender that this character presents is a female gender. Mm-hmm. It's a young girl, and now we know Elliot Page as to be a man. And so it's very interesting watching this character played because even though this is a young girl character, this character is portrayed in a very masculine way. She wears very baggy clothes. She hangs out with the 3 main characters who are all men. So she has a lot of male influence. She's I'm not saying bike riding is a gendered activity, but you know, she's riding her bike all the time. She's getting into trouble. She's sneaking out. You know, she's hanging out with all these men. I don't know if I'm necessarily supposed to be reading a trans performance into Elliot Page's early childhood acting, but it is interesting where you look at this young character. He plays a young girl called Trina, and you're like, is the character trans? Is this portrayal of a young trans boy who will one day eventually transition? How much of Elliot is in this character? I don't know, but it's fun to think about, and it adds another layer to what is a very stupid show.
Very cool. Never thought of it that way. I did find it really interesting, though. I enjoyed a show called Umbrella Academy. It's a superhero show. It's real good. Very out there and a lot, but I liked it. And it was really interesting because Elliot's transition happened pretty much during the screening of these seasons. So the beginning of the show, the season start where Elliot was not transitioned yet. So I just found it really neat to see the earlier seasons and compare it with the later seasons and how they integrated the transition into the show. So the character in the show, I don't remember, I think the character's name began as Vanya, and Vanya had about three seasons or 4 seasons, I don't know exactly. But then in a later season, the character came out to his family and said, I'm now like to be known as Victor. And this was right around the time that Elliot came out as Elliot Page. And so I thought that was really interesting how the the producers just integrated into the show, and then it added another character arc to the current character that kind of mirrored what was going on in Elliot's life. So that was cool to see on TV. I know some people didn't have the best reaction to it, but it was definitely something new for me to be able to watch on screen.
Yeah, I wonder what Elliot's up to. I wonder what's the next big project coming on. I'm gonna try to see if I can watch it. It's very cool to see an out trans guy just doing his thing in media, and yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so that's what I have to say about my movie reviews. Apologies to Denny. I will get back to Dune 2, but it is very cool to have some accidental trans content in the Trailor Park Boys of all shows.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and so for our last segment of the night, let's go back to our beloved recurring segment, Pro Tips from Amateur Moms. And the tip that I have is a tip that I did find on the internet, but I have integrated it into my cooking. And that is meal prepping ingredients rather than meal prepping entire meals. And so what you can do is that when a big chunk of meat goes on sale, cook that entire big chunk of meat and incorporate it into different types of dishes throughout the day. So for example, whole chicken goes on sale, cook the whole chicken and then shred it up into meat. And now you have a big bowl of shredded chicken meat in your fridge. You can make rice bowls with that. You can make burritos with that. You can make sandwiches with them. Same thing with pork loin. Same thing with beef chuck roast. You know, you cook these really big chunks of meat on the weekend when you have time. And then throughout the week, you got real quick lunches with your protein ready to go.
That's great.
And you know, you just throw some meat into your pasta. You know, anything really. It helps a lot because sometimes I finish work exactly as the baby is coming home from daycare. And it's a whirlwind to get dinner on the table. So that's my tip, is meal prep your ingredients, not necessarily your meals.
Yeah, that's a great tip. We do that at our house as well, and it's bonus points if it comes on like a nice big bone or a carcass, because then we just pop it in a big pot and we make a stock or a soup out of the remnants when we take the meat off, and it's good to go. Though something interesting we can maybe talk about in a future episode is all the other lesbians I know in my life are vegetarians.
Yeah, it is funny though. All the queers I know are also vegetarian. Yeah, I don't know why. Not me.
If we have other queers listening, sorry about all the meat talk, because I know we usually stick to vegetables and tofu, stereotypically.
Demographically, yeah. Stereotypically, there's a lot of vegetarians in the LGBT community. Actually, I don't even know in the B, in the G and the B, but definitely in the L.
Yes, definitely in the L.
Gay listeners, let us know. Are you guys vegetarians too? Or is it just the L's and the T's and some of the B's? Let us know about the G group. Yeah. You got a pro tip, Laura?
I think I'll just kind of piggyback on your pro tip. And what we like to do as well is when we have big portions of meals left over, we take muffin tins and make mini portions of meals and then stick it in the freezer. And then once they're frozen, we put them in Ziploc bags. And then we have these little puck meals that if we're ever in a rush or on the go and we want to make sure our daughter has like a nice, healthy, hearty meal, and, you know, maybe we're going somewhere where they're just going to serve something like pizza or something really high salt quantity, we'll grab one of those little pucks, put it in a thermos, and then have it to go. And that's a quick way to, you know, reduce food waste and make sure she's getting a nice balanced meal.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, we've had quite the episode.
We have. I think we talked about some really interesting stuff. Hopefully the listeners feel so as well.
Give us your feedback, listeners. You have so many options to contact us. You can leave comments on Spotify. You can leave comments on Instagram. You can send carrier pigeon mail. You got a wealth of options. All right, Laura, are we all done for the night?
I think we're good to wrap it up here.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for joining us on Loud and Proud Mamas. I'm your host, Justine.
And I'm Laura.
And we're here to say good night and have a great rest of your week. We can't wait to come back on the air with you. See you later.
Bye.